Bungie has buffed Void builds big time for the arrival of Lightfall, and in today's video we'll be going over the meta Voidwalker build, the absolute best Void build you can use if you like to play on Warlock. This build gives you unlimited Devour, and with all the new things Bungie has brought into the game with the 2 new Void fragments and the artifact mods like Volatile Flow, picking up an Orb of Power grants your Void weapons volatile rounds, Bricks from Beyond, which is defeating a powerful combatant with a Void weapon has a chance to generate heavy ammo, and Void weapon channeling. With all of these artifact mods, fragments, and the ability to slot 3 separate mods into each armor piece, we have Void builds going so hard this season that honestly, if Strand wasn't here this season, I really think that everyone would be using Void builds across all 3 classes, minus my Solar Titan build because that one goes unbelievably hard. In this video, I'll be breaking down my Controverse Hold build that I'm using here. I'll go through all the different mods that I have on, but first, enjoy this gameplay. I am 25 power underneath this Lost Sector activity, and yet I'm still able to fly through it. Notice how many times I get Devour proc and get my health back. This is a really nice build. Definitely a viable build to take into the new raid. However, I will say that the majority of Warlocks will choose Solar Warlock for the new raid, but this Void build is insane. It's definitely one of the best builds, especially if you're going to play solo. I'll break down the full build at the end of the Lost Sector. Bit of an armor charge by throwing my grenade. Back. Get Devour proc on that. There we go, we got special for days. So I have to take care of those snipers. Good. Excellent. Perfect. Back from that. Off from that. Good. Let's got power drop there. We do have power. Take you guys out. Just retaliation blast. Power proc. Let's go. That's how it's done. Just like that, we got controversial holds. Oh, those are a really good roll. Let's go, that's huge. Now let's go ahead and break down this build, exactly what I'm using and why I call it the best solo build. The reason why is because you can heal yourself in so many different ways by proccing Devour. It's so unbelievably strong. Definitely the best for any solo activity. My favorite build to take into solo activities. We have Nova Bomb Vortex. You definitely don't want to use Cataclysm. The enemies can actually shoot this out of the air, so don't use that. And Nova Warp is terrible. You don't want to be running around with Nova Warp. So Vortex is definitely the super of choice. And then for the Rift, we're going with Healing Rift, just so that way we have some more survivability. We're going with Burst Glide, Pocket Singularity, and Vortex Grenade. We're choosing this on purpose because this has the best damage output, lasts really long, and will overall get you your grenade back fast because of the mods and fragments that we're using. We have Feed the Void on, and we have Chaos Accelerant. However, I will say that because I'm proccing Devour from a variety of other sources, you could actually go with Trial of the Old Gods and could be a better build. I will be experimenting with that pretty soon, but for this video and for this demonstration, I use Feed the Void. This is kind of the bread and butter build of Voidwalker builds in PvE. For the fragments, we have Echo of Undermining. This is just a must-have. This gives an advantage to Void classes over all the other classes because the ability to debuff enemies by yourself, not needing to use something like a Tractor Cannon, is just so advantageous. You have to use Undermining on basically every build. Even though this brings my discipline down -20, it's just so strong, you pretty much have to use it. Next up, we'll talk about Echo of Starvation. This is picking up a Void Breach or an Orb of Power grants Devour. Before, it was just picking up an Orb granted Devour, but now this Void Breach added to this is nice, and it's because of this that you could actually use Child of the Old Gods instead of using Feed the Void, which procs Devour from getting a Void ability killed. Because of this awesome fragment, you could definitely skip out on that aspect. However, I choose to use both in tandem because that way I just have basically infinite Devour, so that way I have a lot more survivability. I can pick up orbs and get Devour, I can get ability kills and get Devour. It's really nice, and I also have two different sources that I'm creating orbs from as I'm running around with this build. Moving on to the last one, we have your Lingering Grenade effects last longer, and this is really nice because you charge up your grenades, and they do last really long. It's 5 seconds with the charge up grenade, but when you add this to it, it actually adds up to 7 seconds, so that's really nice. The other fragments that were new that were brought were actually really strong too, and you could definitely rotate these in a variety of different places and adjust the build a little bit, but overall this is the one that I chose for this. Now going through all the mods, starting from the helmet, we have Ashes to Assets. Obviously you're going to want to use this from all the different grenade kills we're getting. This is going to help you get your super back really fast. We're using Void Siphon because I'm going to use a variety of different Void weapons, so that way we can proc those volatile rounds, which is so strong. In this instance, I was using Deathbringer, but in a lot of other instances, I'm using the Commemoration machine gun, and that plus volatile rounds and Void Siphon is just orbs galore, Devour galore. It's so strong and so much fun to use. I honestly cannot say enough praises for Void Siphon with Commemoration plus the artifact mods this season. They're so strong and so good. Honestly, this season, if it wasn't for Strand, I really feel like everyone would be using Void because of that artifact mod. And then we have Font of Wisdom, just so I can get my intellect back a little bit faster. You could also just throw on Heavy Ammo Finder if you want to find heavy faster, but you really don't need it because you have bricks from beyond in your artifact. Next up, we'll talk about the Gauntlet. We're going to use Firepower, so that way our Grenade Final Blows will make Orbs of Power. You pick up the Orbs of Power, you're going to get Devour. That's really nice. Plus your Grenade Final Blow itself will proc Devour, and it's so strong because it's being charged up by the exotic Controverse hold. So you'll get Devour from that. So what I recommend to do is wait until your Devour timer is really low and then walk up and pick up those orbs to basically extend your Devour timer. They actually restructured the way Devour works so you can extend the timer by just a few seconds each time, making it a little more balanced. It's not quite as OP as it used to be, and so I think it's more important now to get Devour from a variety of different sources, and that's why I chose to pick both the Aspect and the Fragment that proc Devour, and then make orbs from 2 different sources. This just makes the build so strong. I feel like an actual god running around. I just always have Devour procced. my shields get broken, but I just get my health back immediately because of Devour. Then we have Grenade Kickstart. This is essential to the build, so that way we can get our grenades back every time we throw them. And then we have Bolstering Detonation. Every time I throw my grenade, I'll get a little bit more class ability energy back. That way I can get Healing Rifts back a little bit nicer. You could just throw on double Grenade Kickstart if you notice that I wouldn't always get my grenade back. So honestly, double Grenade Kickstart is not actually a bad idea. You could use that instead of the Bolstering Detonation, and it would be no problem at all. Moving on to the chest piece, just pick whichever resistance mods suit the activity best. For me, in that instance, there was like Arc, Solar, and Void being shot at me, so I chose those three. Let me just fix this mod here real quick, put on the bigger discipline mod. I meant to have that there in the first place, so that I would have 100 discipline. Moving on down to the boots now, we're going to have stacks on stacks, so that way when we pick up an orb, we'll get that armor charge. We can get up to 4 armor charge stacks, which is really nice for this build. And then we have Innervation in both different slots, so that way when we pick up an orb, it will reduce our grenade cooldown so that way we can get our grenades back faster if necessary. Normally you'll see me using recuperation, but in this instance, when you pick up an orb, you're given Devour, so you don't really need to get any health regeneration back. Now let's move on down to the class item where we're rocking double empowered finish and the special finisher. Now if you don't know right now, if you do one finisher, you'll get 3 armor charges as long as you have none. For whatever weird reason, if you have 2 armor charge stacks or 1, when you do the first finisher, it won't bring you back up to 3. It makes you tick down through the timers. So you have to get rid of those armor charge stacks. You'll notice that I would throw my grenade and that would get rid of them due to the gauntlet mod that I have on here with Grenade Kickstart. So that way I could get rid of my armor charge stacks, getting back down to 0. When I get back down to 0, I hit an empowered finish. I'll get all 3 armor charge stacks due to the fact that I have stacks on with the double empowered finish. When I have those 3 stacks, I can hit a finisher on an enemy, refreshes my timer, and drops a special ammo brick every single time. So you'll notice that I'm just running through all those thralls, hitting finishers back to back to back, just making special ammo bricks everywhere. That is really, really good for yourself and for your entire team. You can give special bricks to your whole team and just give infinite special ammo. I highly recommend that you use this, or at least consider using it, because it's so unbelievably strong. If I wasn't using this, then I'd probably just rock some bombers, so that way I get my grenade back a little faster. But honestly, it's really not that necessary. This is just so much stronger. Having infinite special ammo is really nice. As far as the mods go, we're going with 100 resilience, 100 discipline, and then as close to 100 recovery as we can possibly get. You don't need any mobility for this build. You really don't need much strength or intellect, but they're not too bad. The weapons I chose to use was the Riptide because it has auto-loading and choke clip. If you notice, when I freeze an unstoppable champion, when it breaks out of being frozen, then it will be stunned, so that's really nice for that. And then when I shoot the first bullet at an overload champion, it slows them, and so it actually stuns the overload. So with one weapon right here, I can stun both unstoppables and overloads. It's really nice. And then I was just rocking the Hollow Denial because I'm a really big fan of rocking double special. And then we had the Deathbringer because it was just a really strong weapon to use. And we had Void Surge in that activity. That's why it made this really, really strong. Let me know your thoughts about this build overall. I'll put the dim link down below, and make sure to subscribe with notifications on if you want to stay up to date on all things Destiny 2. Smash the like button. I'll see you in the next one. Later.